everybody. Welcome to Body Slam the Competition, our SmackDown review show tonight. With me tonight is Ray Filipino. Mike is not with us at this point. He's out sick tonight, but Ray and I will be taking the show and running with it as usual here. Ray, what'd you think of SmackDown tonight? You got to see all of it. I haven't got to watch it just yet. Tell me how it went.
Well, I can say this. SmackDown was actually better than, I would say it was actually better than Raw this week, but it's better than Raw every week. But this year, post-Mania takes the cake. It was definitely, by far, in my opinion, one of the better SmackDowns this year.
Well, there were some high opinions of Raw last night. Yeah, there were some high opinions of Raw last night, but I've seen quite a few people putting out there, without me seeing too many spoilers earlier tonight, that SmackDown pretty much took the two shows after WrestleMania. Was that definitely the better show, they said. And I have heard the big debut on SmackDown, but how did the show start out?
We'll get to that one. The show kicked off, with the new world champ, Randy Orton, basically saying, I turn around and said that if you can't beat them, join them. And then screw them. He said, but what I left out is when you go to screw them, you take them to WrestleMania, you beat their ass, and you take their title. Plain and simple. And just like any other time, Bray Wyatt would have to interfere with something. And he came on the monitor, basically saying, he's going to get his revenge, but he was talking about psychological warfare, and he wants to take Randy Orton on in a match that will not only test his limits in terms of psychological, but physical, and he wants to take them out in a match called the House of Horrors match. Now, there was nothing explained behind it. There was nothing in terms of what it could be, but it's for something that hasn't been done yet. It's an introduction to a new style of match, and it's something the WWE needed. So that's going to be something that is to keep your eye on. But
cool.
Basically, Bray Wyatt, Orton said, why don't you come out here and let's do this now? The lights went out. Bray Wyatt showed up behind him, said, I'm here. They started fighting, and we had a return. Eric Rowan came out of the crowd and went after Randy Orton. And next thing you know, Luke Harper came down and helped Orton. So it's set up for a tag team main event of the Wyatt family versus Randy Orton and Luke Harper.
So Eric Rowan making a return, nothing like people speculated in the past. There was a lot of talk of Rowan coming back and not being a part of the Wyatt family anymore. And that's kind of a surprise to hear. I really thought they were going to repackage him to something different, but he's got a familiarity. Oh, does he?
Yes, he doesn't have the giant one piece anymore. It's more or less pants and like a shirt, a longer shirt, but it's still the same color. It's like a mechanic suit kind of thing. You know what I mean? The material that they have.
Right.
But his mask is different. It's almost like a steampunk look where he's got hoses going through the mouth of the sheep mask, and he's got almost like a wide open like monocle in the one eye. So it's something a little bit different. And he looks like he put on a couple pounds.
In a good way or bad way?
Good way. It makes him look monstrous. It makes him look even bigger than he was.
Well,
so that's definitely, a bonus. Now, leading into the second segment, it was, there was talk about John Cena and The Miz, Maurice and The Miz, calling out John Cena and Nikki Bella, saying that, they're going to try to call him out tonight and everything, but that was a backstage segment. The second match that we had, the first match that we had was a women's championship match between Naomi and Alexa Bliss. So she invoked her rematch clause right off the bat.
No time like the present.
Right. And it's still, it's still in the hometown, you know what I mean, for Naomi. But all in all, she got her in the submission hold that she used at WrestleMania, which is I don't know if you've seen the submission hold at Mania, but she had her arms. I tried to do that, and I tried to touch my elbows, and I couldn't do it. It
she's
hurt.
double jointed anyway, though. It does look painful, though.
Right. As far as, she's a gymnast, you know what I mean? But in terms, you put that on someone like you or I, we're going to be crying more or less because that looked extremely painful. But yeah, that was the second match, more or less. It was good. It had some good action in it. But it looked like Naomi might have tweaked her knee a little bit again, the same knee that she injured a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago. So that's something that we're going to have to watch out for.
Well, did she retain the title?
Yeah, she did retain the title. It was a solid match in terms of, rematches. But I think that's going to show the end of Alexa Bliss in terms of title contention right now. So that's how that goes. You lose the rematch, you're not going to be. I knew you would say that. But there might be a new contender coming. I mean, you didn't catch Raw last night. I don't want to do any spoilers, but let's just say we're looking at possibly having a new female wrestler on the roster.
Oh, I did see Raw. I watched that earlier today.
Okay, so then you know who I'm talking about.
If you're talking about the one that was the one that came back after being repackaged 12 times in 2 months.
No, I'm talking Charlotte.
Oh, you think she might be sent over to SmackDown in the shakeup they're talking about?
Yeah. Why else would she get demolished like that? You know what I mean? She's obviously not in the title picture. They want to keep putting her.
Yeah, it's a chance for her to get back in the title picture again by moving to SmackDown. That gets her away from the whole thing of not being able to take back the Raw Championship right now and not being labeled as somebody that keeps getting it handed to her. Now she's going to another brand for a while to rule over there and give competition over there, possibly be the champion over there. I'm sure she'll probably take it from Naomi, and then she'll take on all the challengers from that point forward. Question is, will there be a move up from NXT Women, which they're rumoring heavily? Asuka coming up. Would she go to SmackDown or would she go to Raw if she comes up?
She won't come up yet. There've already been talks. She's not going to come up yet because if she would have lost the belt. If anything, she's going to come up probably by SummerSlam. So you're not looking at any point right now. Maybe within the next couple months, but anytime soon, I don't see it. I don't. They're going to keep her dominance going, but that is a good way to keep the staleness away from Raw in terms of the title picture, constantly changing back to Charlotte. And it's a good way if they plan on putting her, because her career is not going to last 34 years like Ric Flair. You know what I mean? So it's
who
a
do you
good
think
way.
they trade for?
I don't know. From what I'm hearing, Enzo and Cass are probably going to end up on SmackDown. Charlotte's probably going to end up on SmackDown. Sami Zayn might end up on SmackDown. But in terms of SmackDown guys going to Raw, I can't even. Just watching it tonight, I have no clue yet.
Yeah, well, what it meant was actually if Charlotte gets sent over to SmackDown, which one of the women do you think they'll send over in her place? If you had to take a stab at one, which one do you think they'll go?
Probably Alexa Bliss.
To me, that makes sense. Talker for a talker. I mean, Charlotte can talk the talk over there. Alexa Bliss can go talk the talk over there and take it for that. She's not as athletic or anything, or as Charlotte is, but she's a great talker, a good heel. That would make a lot of sense. And her and Bayley.
Right, a heel for a heel.
Yeah. I think that would work out pretty well.
Or bring Becky Lynch to bring Becky Lynch to Raw, because there's already talks of Sasha having a heel turn soon. So they're going to replace Charlotte in the heel aspect with Sasha.
That could be done.
But, yeah. So after that match, we had Kurt Hawkins in the ring. And he was bitching and moaning about the shakeup and saying that he wants the perfect challenger. And he said he was going to count to 10 for a challenger.
Oh, no. Don't tell me they brought him up. Did he get it?
Immediately, you saw the perfect 10, Tye Dillenger. And the crowd erupted. And it was perfect. No pun intended. You know what? Hell,
I've got
pun intended.
I've got nothing against it. I got nothing against it at all. Yeah, definitely pun intended. I have nothing against it at all. It's just that I couldn't help but feel like he left the whole Oh gosh, what's the group in NXT called that he's been fighting with?
Sanity, the whole Sanity angle. He left
Sanity.
Left it where
Thank
it was at.
you. Yes, I mean they left the Sanity thing wide open, unfinished. I don't like it when that happens. I like some closure on
not
it.
Not necessarily.
But you know what?
Not necessarily, because he's been battling them for a few months, and Sanity got their win at Takeover. Sanity finally, and they got the pin on Tye Dillinger at Takeover.
I guess it could be. It's not where I think a lot of people would like to see it. But then again, let's say if it does continue for a little bit, that doesn't mean he might not pull double duty for a few weeks, if anything. That's always possible. But
I mean, they did it with Sami Zayn.
You're probably right, though. You're probably right in the fact that they went ahead and just called it closure with that win by them there, just moving him on up and out of the way to go to something different and new. So, I mean, Kurt Hawkins, though. I mean, I don't really get Kurt Hawkins. I mean, is there something great you see with Kurt Hawkins to put him out there like that to give him time in the ring? I mean, have I just not seen enough of him to like him, or what? I mean,
he's a great in-ring talent. He more or less got brought back for talent development, you know, to bring up younger guys. You know, he's more or less a jobber. He is the modern day Brooklyn Brawler. You know, he's just there to enhance talent and to get them over. A veteran guy in the ring, a former champion. You know, he's a former tag champion with Zack Ryder. So, yeah. I mean, he's just there for developmental purposes. I feel enhancement purposes.
Well, I guess you got to have him.
Match. Right, it was a couple-minute match, though. You know, the fans got into it with the whole 10 count and everything, and Dillinger obviously got the win. So, I mean, it wasn't really too hyped up because of the guy he debuted against. I personally would have liked to see him debut against somebody like The Miz, especially after all their Twitter battles. But you can't always get what you want.
The Miz or the favorite person. Right, or either The Miz or the favorite person for all NXT that come to SmackDown to go through first when they get there. You know, throw Dolph Ziggler in front of him.
Right, but they're not going to put a guy like Dolph Ziggler in front of him because they're still trying to build Ziggler. So it's a tough situation in terms of who you bring him up against. But all in all, I mean, he had a great showing on his first, you know, SmackDown appearance. And it was weird to see, though, because you know how Dillinger kind of had that little scruff going on his face?
Right.
He was completely clean-shaven. It was really weird looking. Like, really weird looking.
Nothing what you're accustomed to seeing or anything.
Right. They're going with the true baby face with him in that aspect. But, I mean, after that match, they went into his backstage segment again. They interviewed Mojo Rawley, and he was, you know, hyped up about, you know, him winning the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, saying that he had his WrestleMania moment and everything. But it was just, you know, talk. And then they went into, you know, the replay from last night in terms of Vince, you know, stating that there's going to be a shake-up coming and everything. So, but that's all that was in terms of that. The next thing that ended up happening, though, was Miz and Maurice came out, but they came out as John Cena and Nikki Bella. Yeah, and pretty much
they won't let that go, will they?
No, they won't. But it was more or less, you know, basically they started their whole Total Bellas bullshit shtick again and everything, and basically said, John Cena, don't come back. The fans started chanting that and everything, and saying how, you know, the ring is fake, the marriage is fake, and everything like that. But as they went to get ready to leave the ring, you seen a guy standing there with a violin.
Okay, now that I picked up on, I saw a video of that, so I know where that's coming from. I did see that part.
Right, and like true Nakamura style, there's his debut. And Miz and Maurice just left the ring, and it was just, there was no action, there was no fight. It was just Nakamura dancing around, you know, and everybody chanting Nakamura, which the crowd was loud as hell. You know, and it's, I would have liked to see him debut against somebody, you know, or even, you know, see the Kinshasa against somebody, but, you know, the crowd did their chants and they played Nakamura's music again, and that's how it ended. So it was kind of a lackluster debut, if you ask me.
Maybe they'll make something out of it where the Miz drops his whole John Cena bit. I thought the John Cena thing was going away at the WrestleMania anyway because he was going to do some kind of a movie afterwards, and that was it
he's
for
filming
Nikki
2
Bella.
movies.
She was taking time out, and he was going to be part-time at that point, if anything. So I would think they would just drop. Maybe what's happening is they came out to make one more showing at the WrestleMania of it to kind of make themselves look better since from the loss at WrestleMania. They're trying to stand out from that by showing them up, and then Nakamura shows them up out there when they're doing their thing. Miz takes offense to it next week and comes out and confronts him or has something to say about him, possibly brings him on the Miz TV, whatever that he likes to do. It could be something like that could happen with it. You see Nakamura and the Miz take off instead of Tye Dillinger.
I mean, the way I see it is that already leads into the fact that you're not going to send Miz or Nakamura to Raw, because Nakamura just debuts on SmackDown and they're going to send him to Raw. No, that's not going to happen. And the Miz is going to get interrupted and then get sent off to Raw, especially with all the stuff backstage with Daniel Bryan and everything. Again, it's not something that's going to happen. It's a feud that's probably going to start. And they're probably going to have their match at whatever the pay-per-view is going to be. I don't even know for the first SmackDown after Mania pay-per-view. I know Payback is Raw, but anymore you don't even know, because they're bringing back old pay-per-views like Bad Blood at some point. They're just it's becoming way too much.
I'm surprised we haven't seen more Clash of the Champions than what they've done in the past.
No, we've seen a Clash of the Champions. That was back in September. That's when Orton was supposed to start fighting Randy Orton or Wyatt.
I'm surprised we haven't seen more attempts of Clash of the Champions. Clash of the Champions used to be something they had quarterly. They used to have it quarterly on TBS. Was Clash of the Champions? I wouldn't be opposed.
Right. Well, I wouldn't be opposed of them having Raw doing Night of Champions for their belts, and SmackDown doing Clash of Champions. You know what I mean? I think that would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's going to lead into some kind of feud. As to where it's going to go, I'm not too sure. But the next match followed up. It was a street fight. Baron Corbin wanted a rematch against Ambrose. It wasn't for the belt, but I'm telling you right now, this was one hell of a match. I mean, they brought out chairs, tables. They brought out freaking leather straps, which I feel a leather strap match is coming now. Because when's the last time you've seen a leather strap?
You haven't, and that's one of the things we brought up a while back about old school matches not being in the newer type shows. Matter of fact, Mr. Herb Simmons, who was on the show with us a couple of weeks ago for a 15-minute segment there, when we had him on for his original interview last year, he made mention that you don't see any of the old school matches anymore. There's no more loser leave town matches. There's no more hair versus hair matches, really. There's no Indian strap matches, Russian chain matches, four-corner the four-corner strap match where you drag them to each corner and tag the turnbuckle to get the win, There's really not even pole matches. If you think about it, when's the last pole match you've seen where you climbed the pole to get the belt? I think it was with Booker T and a few others, and they were to get no, you know what, that I might be thinking TNA.
Maybe it was WCW, Viagra on a pole match. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm pretty sure.
They did really have one. They really did have that match, though.
I don't doubt it. I really don't. They got kind of crazy at the end there anyway. But it was, I don't know if it was WWE or if it was TNA. They had some type of a match where they had they climbed a pole to get a briefcase, and it had some kind of a thing inside of it.
It was Feast or Fire.
Feast or Fire. That was TNA. Okay.
Yeah, which TNA should bring that back, because that was actually a really good concept. But no, the match was actually really, really good. I mean, Corbin started off, going after Ambrose, and the action ended up outside real quick. I mean, really quick. I mean, it was to the point that Corbin went to get a chair, and he turned around, and Ambrose dove through the ropes at him, hit him with the chair, and then dove again and sent him over the announce table. The fight actually ended up in the crowd at one point. Then, Ambrose ended up dodging Corbin, because Corbin set the steel chair up between the ropes in the corner. Dodged that, causing Corbin to go headfirst in the chair. I mean, 2 tables were broken in the match. And it ended up being, well, like I said, the leather strap, and oh my God, Ambrose whipped Corbin like a redheaded stepchild. I mean, he was just swinging that strap every which way and just beat the piss out of him. He's going to wake up in the morning, going to take a shower, going, "This is going to hurt," you know. Yeah. But it ended with an end of days. Ambrose went to get on top rope to do, I guess, a diving elbow or whatever, and Corbin threw the chair at him, causing him to lose his balance. He straddled the top rope, came off, and Corbin hit him with end of days. So that's definitely showing dominance on Corbin's end.
To get your opinion here, because before you came on the show with us this past Sunday, we'd already talked about the pre-show stuff that happened, and Baron Corbin and Dean Ambrose obviously were in the pre-show defending the Intercontinental title, which I felt was strange anyway, to defend the IC belt in a pre-show match, not the actual
It's not the first
WrestleMania.
Time. It's really not the first time, because if you look back at WrestleMania 29 when it was in Jersey, Wade Barrett and The Miz wrestled on the pre-show, and that's when The Miz won the Intercontinental Championship again and then lost the next night on Raw. So it's not unheard of to have it on the pre-show.
It's not. I just don't like the concept of it, because the IC belt's supposed to have a lot of prestige to it with that company.
Right.
And to have it on the pre-show, to me, seems like an insult to the belt and the person who has it. But anyway, beyond that, we were talking, and Mike's never been a big fan of Baron Corbin. I don't think him or KJ, either one, has been, to be honest with you, Baron Corbin.
No, we know KJ calls him Baron Cardboard.
Yeah, Baron Cardboard, and Mike hates him with a passion, I think. But he hates him because he hates that finishing move, End of Days. I think it's one of the coolest ones that are out there right now. But I had to agree with him with something, though. That's what I said. It was a unique one. It's not like anybody else's, really. But he did make an excellent point, though. And it's one of those things where this is the reason why you say that Corbin still needs room to grow and change his moveset a little bit. He needs to come up with something, either another dominant finisher like that or a submission hold that he can pull off and do, because what's he going to do when he has somebody who is too big to pull End of Days off on? He's not going to pick up a Luke Harper or a Eric Rowan or even someone from SmackDown.
He's already picked up big guys.
I'm talking like his size or bigger, though, and hold him with one arm like he does down and swing him back for the move. I mean, I haven't seen him do anybody his size or bigger that way.
I think he's actually gotten the Big Show.
Now that I would like to see. I have not seen that. I want to look that up. I don't see how he can get him in that type of situation.
Don't hold me to it, but I think in the past year, I think he's actually gotten one on the Big Show.
I don't know. We'll have to research that and find out for sure. And we do. We'll let everybody know who's listening tonight that's wondering the same thing. We'll follow up on it again. But he brought it up, and he brought up, and I think it's a great move.
Well, you look at it this way: he's a 3-time Golden Glove champion. Big Show's leaving by February. Take that knockout punch. Bring back the heart punch. You know what I mean? Use that Golden Glove to your advantage.
There you go. That's a great idea. That could be his other move, another devastating move for a finisher. And, most of the great ones out there have more than one finisher.
Right. I mean, but then again, usually it ends up being a finisher and a submission.
Right. Even if you do a finisher, but there's some people there who have two different actual finishers that they can do. That's not a submission hold, though. You've had people in the past that have two different things going on, which is most current person I can think of off the top of my head, Bayley, although she don't use the elbow very much, but she did use it against Charlotte and get the pin on her, the flying elbow from the top rope. She has done that in the past for a victory. Bayley to belly, and the Big Show's got the chokes on him and the knockout punch.
Right.
Randy Orton had the RKO or the punt, the head punt. So he needs something to add to his repertoire.
Right. And they're eventually probably going to make him more versatile in the long run, maybe give him a submission. But like I said, I mean, when you get a crowd chanting, "This is awesome," especially after Mania, when you got people from around the world that don't care if you're a fan, I mean, whether you're a face, a heel, this, that, they want to become the show. You know what I mean? And when they're actually lost in the match and they're chanting, "This is awesome," you know damn well you have a match on your hands.
Right. And, I'm just thinking, do you know what would be two excellent choices for a submission-type move for Corbin?
What's that?
A man of his size and his his height and his build and everything. Bring back the full Nelson submission like you used to see with Hercules and Billy Jack Haynes. He's got Chris Masters.
Chris Masters.
Yeah, another one. He can do it.
I think they're getting away from the full Nelson now. I think they want to try to get away from that. Because
there's another one I had
injured
in mind too. True. The other one I was thinking was the Cobra Clutch or $1 Million Dream type sleeper. I think with his size, a lot of people who are smaller than him, when he gets them locked into it, it's hard for someone like that to get out of it. The Cobra, if you treat it as the Cobra Clutch and not make it look too much like Samoa Joe's Kikino, or whatever he calls it.
The Kikita Clutch?
Kikita Clutch, yeah. If you don't make it look too much like that, that would be good. Or he could...
he could also do, at his size, he could do a guillotine. He could wrap you in a guillotine and wrap his legs around you and bend you backwards and choke you out at the same time.
Right.
He's got those long arms. I mean, he's, 6'6"?
What about the backbreaker, the torture rack, like Luger used to do?
I mean,
he's not muscular
like what we were. That's like what we were talking about with. Actually, I think a buddy and I were discussing this. You got moves from the 90s that used to put you out, i.e. the DDT, you know what I mean? The torture rack and stuff like that. Now they're just nothing but secondary moves anymore. I've seen it being used on Johnny Gargano by one of the Authors of Pain at TakeOver.
Right.
And they're big guys. Gargano's a small guy, and he didn't even tap. You know what I mean? So you take a guy like Baron Corbin, who's essentially size-wise smaller than the Authors of Pain, and you try to get him to use a torch rack, it's not going to work well. It's going to falter.
I'm just throwing things out there at this point. I'm more of a fan of throwing back the full Nelson or some kind of a Cobra Clutch kind of thing with him, because with his height, the Cobra Clutch thing like DiBiase used to use and Sergeant Slaughter used to use, that version of that was a very dominant kind of move. And with his height, he can make it really a good advantage to stand over the top of people and hold them down with that.
Right. I mean, but you try anything with a technical submission hold, it's not going to work at all. You need something with brute strength, like you said.
Well, that's where the full Nelson came in. That's why I thought of that first. Strong full Nelson, put them out with that. But if they're trying to avoid that and get away from something like that, there's nothing much you can do about it at that point.
No, not at all. Not at all. But that's definitely a feud that's still going to keep going. And I've been paying close eye in terms of where feuds are going. Especially with Baron Corbin getting the win over Ambrose tonight. They're not going to end that. They're not going to move either one of them to Raw. And if they do, they're moving both of them. Because it's just, you can't continue a feud like that and then split it up, especially when it's as hot as it is, especially with, the response they got tonight.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. But then again, this is Vince McMahon. This is WWE. Not a damn thing he ever fucking does make sense.
I'm almost afraid of the shakeup, to be honest with you.
I am too. Well, actually,
I'm liking SmackDown so much.
Well, that actually leads me into the next thing. Shane McMahon came out, and he was praising SmackDown, land of opportunity. You want an opportunity, come here. Everybody on Raw should wish they were on SmackDown. Well, as soon as he said that, out comes AJ Styles, and basically said that in terms of the shakeup, he didn't want to leave SmackDown because SmackDown Live is the house that AJ Styles built. And that was followed by a roar from the crowd, a huge pop. And it's true. AJ Styles helped build SmackDown, in my opinion.
He made it popular. He made it popular
Yes.
what it is, no doubt.
Yes. But he turned around, he looked at Shane, and he says, I feel that I owe you something. And he looked at him, and he extended his hand, and they shook hands. AJ had a black, and when he said, I owe you something, he touched his eye. His eye's all black and blue and everything, And that's when he stuck his hand out, and Shane shook his hand. And AJ went to walk away, and turned around and went to fake punch him, like to tease that he was going to hit him. And then he posed, his typical swing his arms out and pose.
Uh-huh.
And they acknowledged each other. Shane kind of laughed and nodded at him, and AJ nodded at him, and he left. talk about like real
sports. That's a sign of
respect,
right now. You know.
Well, I think it's because AJ did not expect to have that kind of match with Shane McMahon. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. I told all you guys. You know, I told the fans, I told the listeners, I told you. You know, I mentioned it to Mike. People don't realize that Shane McMahon is the type of person that will do whatever it takes to make the match memorable. He will literally put his body on the line. And he did just that. You know what I mean? So for a man the caliber of AJ Styles to come in there and shake his hand, I mean, you look, Shane has been in the ring with guys like X-Pac. He's been in the ring with Kurt Angle, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, The Undertaker. He's been in there with the best of the best. Kane, The Big Show. He's done it all. And not many people can sit there and say that they've wrestled these guys, and Shane McMahon can.
And it was actual wrestling matches, not a gimmick thing like with McMahon and Stone Cold, where McMahon might get a couple of punches in or something and hit him with a sledgehammer or a whatever the case may be. It was actual wrestling. Shane would come out there and do some actual bumps and stuff and take some hits.
I mean, right, you're looking at Shane diving off the top of cells, off the top of Titantrons, getting thrown through 3-inch thick solid glass. You know, I mean, I don't know if it was 3-inch thick, but that King of the Ring, that was it took 2 throws. He had 2 throws to get Shane McMahon through that with every bit of strength that Kurt Angle had, just to get him through that. You know, so AJ Styles damn well better shake that man's hand, because since he's been back, I have to say that this match falls in the top 5 for AJ Styles. Plain and simple.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I stand by what I said. You know, Sunday, that was to me that was a highlight of the show. Even though you had the bigger fallout from Reigns and Undertaker, I thought the AJ Styles and Shane McMahon match was the best match of the night in my eyes, because of the way it went. I mean, there were so many things that Shane pulled off that you wouldn't think he could. Not to mention the counters that he did to what AJ was putting out there, which was just amazing stuff. And my hat's off to him. I mean, that was my match of the night.
Oh, yeah, definitely, without a doubt. Speaking of match of the night, we got the main event. Now, it ended up being, you know, the former Wyatt members, and yes, I will count Randy Orton as a former Wyatt member, against the current Wyatt members. And, I mean, it was pretty back and forth, you know. You're looking at suicide dives from Luke Harper. You're looking at, you know, constant teamwork from, you know, Eric Rowan and Bray Wyatt in terms of, you know, constantly tagging in and out. It was more or less dominance from the Wyatt family, but as soon as Randy Orton went to hit the RKO on Bray Wyatt, the lights went out. Lights came back on. Bray Wyatt's outside by the ramp, laying on the ramp, and Eric Rowan turns around and comes in and tries to grab him in a full Nelson slam. Orton slips out. Luke Harper hits Rowan with a super kick and gets RKO'd by Orton. And Rowan slips out of the ring. Harper slips out of the ring to make sure Orton doesn't get the pin broken up by Bray Wyatt. And Harper and Orton get the win. But what's weird is the entire time, Bray Wyatt's just on the map, on the ramp, mumbling and talking to himself and laughing, and he thinks it's a big joke, and he looks like he's literally lost his mind. Look, he's just waving his hands around, talking to himself, and looking up at the ring, and it's just weird stuff.
I wonder what's going to do. Did they give any kind of explanation of what might be going on with that, or did they talk about it in any way?
No, they haven't brought anything up with that yet. Like I said, in terms of the House of Horrors match, there's been no word in terms of what it entails. That's something that I'm really, really, really interested in seeing. And, finding out what is going to happen with it. I mean, like I said, it's a new concept. It's something unheard of, which in a way it kind of makes me think back to, you know, our interview with, my interview with Zach Monstar, you know, his Madhouse match. And it makes me wonder if it's going to be something like that, you know, with weapons and so on and so forth. Because, like I said, Bray Wyatt said that it is something that's going to not only test his mental strength of how twisted his mind is, but how twisted his body is. So it's, you know, it's something that needs to be seen, I feel.
Well, it's got my interest in it. I wonder how they're gonna pull that out and what they're gonna do with it exactly. I mean, it sounds like it could go a number of different ways. I hope, sincerely hope, it's not more of what we've seen for the WrestleMania, what they did with the ring, where they made it look like there were worms and maggots and stuff on the ring. That was kind of silly. I didn't like that.
Ugh.
It was just pretty stupid. I mean, look, you could see it showing on Randy Orton's back. It's definitely easily to tell it's projected from down above. If they had something fixed, maybe where it was going from below the ring and something, you know, some lights up and there was something in there that showed stuff like that, that might be different if you could work it out that way. I don't think you could because there's no distance to make it show properly on there, so I don't know how they would do it. But I think they just steer clear of stuff like that and just do something completely different. If they get a House of Horrors kind of thing in mind, maybe they even set it up where it's one of those matches where you don't really see it live. They do something like where the New Day went to the compound and took them on at the compound and take them through something called a House of Horrors that way, or make some kind of a House of Horror match like they did with the WCW thing they did with the different level cage deal that they did. You go to the next level, the next level, the next level. I forget what that was called now. I think it was a Kevin Sullivan thing they had.
Yeah, it was. I think it was the Dungeon of Doom against Lex Luger.
I just can't remember, but I mean, it was something. They could do something similar to that and make it that way if they wanted to. They copy everything else from the past, right? So why not go that route with that too? I wonder,
right.
You know, with that being the main event and everything, that's how it turned out. We got about 20 minutes left to cover things here. We mentioned earlier, you mentioned earlier about the shakeup and possibly seeing Enzo and Cass come over to SmackDown.
Yes.
I wonder if that is a big reason why they didn't do the belts.
I think that if the Hardys wouldn't have signed, that would have potentially left, you know, Enzo and Cass to win the belts and left them on Raw. But now with the Hardys being there, you're looking at the tag team division that went from more or less fizzling out on Raw when you just had the New Day, Sheamus and Cesaro, Gallows and Anderson, and Enzo and Cass, and the Shining Stars. That's all you had. You know, the Shining Stars have kind of been, you know, fizzling out. But, you know, it's now that you got the Hardys there, you have the Revival there, you're looking at 6 tag teams up there right now. Actually, no, I'm sorry. You're looking at about 7 tag teams that are on Raw right now. So they're going to have to do something. And the last time, you know, when they had brand splits, after any kind of big event, they would, you know, whoever was planning on moving, they would end up losing. Previously, the week before. So I think Enzo and Cass will have a better chance on SmackDown, which I still feel, you know, they've been around as a tag team for 4 years now and still don't have anything. And it's upsetting. And with the loss of Zack Ryder on SmackDown, him being injured, that opens up for a tag team. But my question is, are they going to move a tag team from SmackDown to Raw? And if that's the case, I could see it being American Alpha.
But it's hard to say whether they really need to move one from SmackDown to Raw or just move another quality tag team from Raw to SmackDown and maybe do something else with one of the others. I mean, they've got tag teams on SmackDown now that they don't really make use of that much anyway, except when they want to just have someone lose. And that's fine because, like you said, you got to have enhancement talent. And to me, that seems like that's all they're going to have of the Vaudevillains is making them enhancement talent for people. May as well just leave them there and the Ascension as well.
Right. Well, the Ascension is going to be a team that's going to end up with the belts eventually. And that has shown signs in the past few weeks leading into Mania, leading, through the Elimination Chamber ever since the Rumble. Because they've been in those matches with, the Elimination Chamber, prime example. When they ended up in that gauntlet match, more or less, and ended up being the final team to take on American Alpha, and they put on a hell of a match at the end. Just like, that one SmackDown, they ended up being that team that ended up facing American Alpha. They're going to be a team that's going to end up with it because I think they finally paid their dues, and they've gotten past, with what happened to them 2 years ago when they came up, when they were being, when they first opened their mouths and people realized these guys are fucking morons. When they turn around and were being accused of being, the Road Warriors, basically.
Right.
I think they've moved on past that, especially when they started breaking away from the black and the red, and they started moving more towards the other face paint and whatnot. They're going to be a team that's going to end up with it, but I don't see Raw moving 2 tag teams over to SmackDown because of the fact that you've already got multiple tag teams there, and it's a tag team division that is slowly starting to die down. I mean, they had signed the Headbangers for a while, did nothing with them. They brought in the Spirit Squad. They really did nothing with them, and they were 2 tag teams. They were both former tag team champions, nonetheless, and they didn't do anything with them. So, if anything, it's going to end up being Enzo and Cass being moved over. You're going to have Charlotte get moved over, and I'm calling that right now. And it's not because there's going to be a move up from the NXT. It's because, now that you have Emma back, they also have Kelly signed. Nobody knows where she's going yet. She's probably going to end up going to Raw if they move Charlotte over. But it's tough to say because, like I said, Sami Zayn, Jinder Mahal might even go over to SmackDown. They might even move Rusev, from what I'm hearing. But it's a matter of who's going to fit best where. I can tell you right now, Roman Reigns will not get moved over. That's Vince's baby. You know what I mean, so to speak. Vince is the one that wants to push him, not Triple H. It's Vince.
It's kind of like, if you think about it, it's kind of like The Undertaker, not saying that was Vince's baby, but The Undertaker was usually a mainstay on Monday Night Raw. They had a little thing when they had the brand split and they put him on SmackDown that lasted all of a week and he was back on Raw again.
No. What this brand split, yes. But Undertaker has been a mainstay on SmackDown for a long time. Even during the original brand split, when that happened, he went to SmackDown, and that's where he was. That's like when Triple H went to SmackDown. He lasted there for about a week, and then went to Raw. It was you had your set stones on each show, and Taker was SmackDown's cornerstone. And I think towards the end, the only reason he went to Raw is because they were going to set up for Roman Reigns. If they were initially going to have him face John Cena or AJ Styles, he would have stayed on SmackDown. But because they wanted to be Roman Reigns, that's why they shifted him over to Raw like they did to finish everything out. Not only that, but I think it came down to Raw is like Vince says, like Michael Cole says, the longest running episodic show, in history. It's been going for, 24 years now, almost 25, 24 years, since 1993. All right, so why not let him be a member of the Raw roster for his last run? And he was there for the first, and he can go out on the show he was there at.
Hey man, talk about that whole thing of The Undertaker is just all over the internet. It's taken over everything wrestling wise online. It seems like they're still complaining about it on Facebook and crying about it and making remarks about it. There's all kinds of articles being written about it consistently. Still, the hashtag Wrestlemania was still popular and trending today on Facebook. Mainly talking about Reigns and The Undertaker and everything. It's a big, humongous deal.
Right. Well, I mean, it's even on ESPN. And I mean, granted, the connection with ESPN now is Jonathan Coachman, but There's been no word, no written finalization in terms of whether he's done or not, and that's probably what they're leaving to the mystique of The Undertaker. Michelle McCool has already stated thank you to the fans and everything like that. She's already put out her statement. Every single wrestler, past, present, future, have already tweeted, thank you, Taker. Thank you for the memories. The fans have already done it. They didn't do that after the Brock Lesnar match when he lost. Because he put his gloves in the ring. This time, he literally left everything in the ring, and he broke character to kiss his wife. There's only been one other time that he broke character, and that was when Ric Flair retired. And he came into the ring after Raw went off the air and knelt down and did, his typical Undertaker thing when he raised his hand up, and you can see the tears in the Undertaker's eyes. There's only been 2 times he's ever broken character, and that's when Flair retired, and that was this time. And they're just going to leave it that way. There's never been a formal statement from the Undertaker. There's never been a formal statement from, World Wrestling Entertainment, Vince McMahon, anybody on that end, whether it be, promotions or anything, in terms of whether he's done or not. But I don't think there needs to be anything.
But it's such a strong visual that was laid out there. It was a strong visual goodbye. There's no words needed. He did everything. He put the entire
actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't say taking off your gloves slowly, methodically, laying them down, taking off your jacket, folding it neatly over a couple of times, setting it on top of it, taking the iconic hat and setting it on top of those and walking off, and then breaking character to the wife in the stands, and then walking out of the ramp, stopping with your back turned, don't look back, throw the hand up one last time, walk out the door.
And they turn around and they said that once he was done, he left. Nobody's seen him leave. All they know is he was gone.
Right. Well, he probably didn't want any kind of lengthy goodbyes or. And someone mentioned that they should have one of those Ric Flair kind of goodbye shows on Raw for him.
No,
I don't think he wants it. I don't think he'd want that anyway.
It's not a matter of whether he wants it. It's not a matter of whether he deserves it. It's not a matter of whether it's needed. It's a matter of, he did things his way. And like you said, it's a matter of whether he wants it or not in an aspect. But if you want to keep the mystique of The Undertaker going, leave it the way it is. The next time you'll ever see that man is when he gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. And that's the only other time you'll see him break character.
Right. And there's been so many people that it's amazing. I wish I was Roman Reigns right now. You won't hear many people say that. Not many people would actually say that right now, but I wish I was Roman Reigns right now.
No.
Because I can't tell you. Oh, I do. I can't tell you why. I'll tell you right now. I can't tell you how much hate and disdain he's got from people online and in the crowd, and how much heat he has pulled right now. You could have him in a freezer right now, and he would still pull enough heat to melt that freezer and nothing and set flames to it. He's got so much heat on him. And tell me that is not just a cash cow waiting to hit right now. They could make so much money hand over fist with him right now if they would just go ahead and just get it over with. I know they say they don't want to turn him heel, but take one of the more popular baby faces they got there and have them challenge him next or something, or someone they think should be there. Bring Braun Strowman back at him. The crowd's chanting Braun's name earlier when he, on the Monday Night Raw when he was confronting Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar, bring him back to Roman. Say he's not done with him. Let Roman keep beating him down. That's just going to keep drawing people more and more mad about it and drawing them more to watch and seeing someone bring him down. It's that classic. You want to see the heel get beat bad. Even if he's not really being listed as a heel, they still want to see him get beat in the worst way.
Well, here's the thing. I have never seen a crowd reaction like this, not since Slaughter turned on America.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's some crazy stuff for him.
Roman had said to Jonathan Coachman that he said, I didn't want to do it, but I had to. He said, everybody in that locker room respects that man. I respect that man. But he said, I didn't want to have to do it, but I had to. I had to prove that this is my yard. And You know, some people are dealt that task, you know, that you don't want to do. And unfortunately, he was the one.
Well, what really burns me up are the ignorant fans out there, though. This one dude earlier. I'm not going to call names out. I never call names out. I'm not going to call anyone out like that. It's not anybody that you know, but he was on Facebook on someone's thread, and he was basically saying that Roman Reigns is just a bum who got 5 minutes of fame, and they gave it to him to be the one to bury the Undertaker's, or not bury him, but to end his career. They should have had someone like Kurt Angle had the last match with him to end his career, or someone like, you know, someone of a more seasoned vet nature end his career, because you know what they said. Look at Ric Flair. They let HBK put him out and end his career. You know, he got a seasoned veteran, not some young punk kid, to do it. I tell them, you know, it's not like they're just trying to get some young punk kid to come out and make the Undertaker look bad. It's a passing of a torch of some sort of what they're doing, and Flair had already done that in years past. Sting, basically, he passed
right.
that
and
mantle
you look
to
at
Sting.
the Undertaker. The Undertaker retired Michaels, you know, and so on and so forth. But you know what? I think what it comes down to is, or who it was. You could have put fucking Finn Balor in there. You could have put Dean Ambrose. You could have put, you know, the biggest baby face in the company, okay, in that ring against The Undertaker for his final match and beat The Undertaker. And honest to God, I think this crowd reaction would have been the same.
If not
because
similar.
Of who it, if not similar, right. I mean, it probably wouldn't be to that extent, because we all know everybody hates Roman. And Daniel Bryan started. Daniel Bryan is the reason for it. Because the year that Daniel Bryan, everybody wanted the fans in that Rumble, and he didn't end up in that Rumble. And then the following year, they wanted him to win, and it ended up being Roman Reigns. That's what was the downfall of Roman Reigns. Because you know what? When everybody turned around and seen the Shields, they turned around, they looked at Roman Reigns, and they said, that's the guy. That's the guy right there. Okay? And as soon as the Shield broke up and they started pushing Roman Reigns, now I'm not a Roman Reigns fan, but I notice these things. And as soon as they started pushing Roman Reigns, no, we don't want that. No, we fucking hate Roman Reigns. Fuck Roman Reigns. And it's like, really? You guys just got done saying a year and a half ago that he's the guy. He's the one that you think is going to go somewhere. He's the one you want to see go somewhere. And the second he starts getting a push, you want to flush him down the toilet?
All right.
No, it's becoming a hypocritical world. And yes, I'm calling myself a hypocrite because I turned around and said that guy's going to be the next guy. That guy's going to be the next guy they're going to put a belt on. And as soon as they started pushing him, I turned around and said, no, I don't want this. But I think it comes down to the fact that they're pushing too hard and they're literally shoving him down our throats. They're not doing the build. They're not doing things properly. You know, they're just pushing them and pushing them and pushing them and pushing them and pushing them. And we're just getting tired of constantly seeing, I mean, Jesus, 3 World Heavyweight Championships in 5 months. It's ridiculous.
There's not much story building. If you haven't noticed this today, there's not much story building in the WWE today. There's not as much time taken to prep for these things, to build up a feud. Just when the best things that you see are the feuds that slowly build up and then catch fire and get hotter as they go until they culminate at the end. Big meeting.
Right, Bray Wyatt, Orton, Seth Rollins, Triple H, you know, and I'll even say it, even though it wasn't a long build, Shane McMahon, AJ Styles, because you could see there wasn't much between the two, but you could see AJ fighting the authority figures in general ever since he lost the belt 2 months ago. So even the little 2-month build that they were doing, it was still building into it.
I think about the Daniel Bryan versus the Wyatt family bit when they had that, how he was constantly taking beatings from him until he joined them, and it looked like he joined them or something. Then he has that change of heart.
He was there for a week.
You had that the build up of that. That was the last, well, not the last one, but I mean that was one of the few storylines I remember of getting a good build up at least. Of them trying to turn him.
Not only that, but the Daniel Bryan ended up with the World Championship at WrestleMania 30. When he ended up in that triple threat match, it was built, and it was a year-long build. Not only that, but even John Cena and The Rock, even though it was announced the year prior, And it wasn't an every day, every week thing. It was, back and forth here and there, and they would just nitpick at each other and go back and forth from time to time. It built it up. It was a solid build where they weren't literally shoving it down your throats.
Exactly. And that's I know that's the biggest thing with the Roman Reigns thing. I know he had the 3 championships in a short period of time. They want to push him. I think one of the reasons for those championships, though, didn't he, or was the performance enhancing thing after one of his reigns that he got suspended for? I thought maybe he got pinned and belt due to one of his violations he had a while back.
That was actually last summer that he violated. He got.
Was that the one where Sheamus got the belt over him?
No. Last summer, it was when. Remember? Okay, so Battleground. Sorry, I was talking video games with somebody earlier. Battleground. Okay, when you had that triple threat with the Shield in it, all 3 members of the Shield. Roman Reigns got suspended after that, and then came back right before SummerSlam, and had that battle with Rusev at SummerSlam, and just destroyed Rusev.
Right.
He got suspended for, I think it was like the whole month of July. And that's when he got nailed with the performance enhancing.
All right.
So, yeah, that's when that was. Because when Sheamus got over on him, he was still battling week in and week out and ended up winning the belt back 3 weeks later.
So I try to ask people this question, and I know times are different. It's a different era. It's a different time frame and all. We used to get nothing but Hulk Hogan with the belt. It was rare that Hulk Hogan gave up that belt to anybody else. It was always Hogan and Hulkamania, always thrust to the forefront. All you got was Hulk, 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 Hulk. No one like a Ricky Steamboat got a title. You didn't see Roddy Piper holding a title, no Rick Rude getting a title, no Jake the Snake Roberts getting a title, no Junkyard Dog, no Mr. Perfect. So it was always Hulk, 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 Hulk. And then when it come down to it, in other areas, and when it was all territorial days, it was always Ric Flair, Ric Flair, Ric Flair, Ric Flair, Lawler, 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 Lawler. Kerry Von Erich, the Prince of Texas, basically. When you go there, Kerry Von Erich was like royalty. Everywhere you went, there's always been somebody who's been pushed and shoved and said, this is the guy, like it or not, this is the guy. And I don't know why people don't remember that more. I know the younger people won't know about all that. People like me that's seen all these around here, I think it's why I don't really look at it so much like that anymore, is because I remember back in the day, it was always the same way then, too. You had a champion you wanted out there, you handpicked somebody you want to be the face of your company and wear the belt, and that was the person, and that was it. And it's right. But when it's done that way now, all of a sudden the company is now force-feeding the person to us, shoving him down our throat. I can't stand him. It's like I told somebody earlier who complained because they said they didn't like him because he had a limited moveset and he doesn't talk well. And I brought up my favorite thing.
It comes down to this, and I know we don't have much time left. We only probably got like a couple minutes. But, it brings it down to this. If you didn't like what was being shoved down your throat back then, you could go elsewhere. You know what I mean? In terms of bigger promotions, because, they were always being televised somewhere, somehow. You could always go somewhere else. And now you're limited on where you can go. Because there are people that never like TNA. There are people that don't like Ring of Honor because it's too independent for them. They like the glitz and the glam. So if you like the glitz and the glam, you're stuck with one or two promotions. And that's what it comes down to. But people are seemingly forgetting that within this one big promotion, you've basically got 3 sub-promotions. You've got Raw, you've got SmackDown, and you've got NXT. Okay? So just pick one. Pick a product and stick with it. That's why I like NXT. There's not many wrestlers. They fight for a spot. And, you're going to have a champion. And, he could hold it for 4 or 5 months, but you're going to get a longevity out of it. Because of the fact that everybody fighting for a top spot on the main roster, you're not going to get multiple-time champions and have them shoved down your throat.
Right. Well, I will say this because we're wrapped up on time and we got to go ahead and go. But I will say this: there is a problem with most people today. This is practically the me generation. It's what I want, not what you want. This is what I want to see that's what it feels like. We're a generation of convenience. We want it now, and we want what we want. The people who are just out there for the most part today, and that's all they want to see, and that's all they care about. And if they don't get it, then there's a fit thrown with a sense of entitlement following up with it, like they should get what they want with it, and it just doesn't work that way. And so you're gonna get what you get. I mean, McDonald's is not going to change the Big Mac secret sauce because you think Arby's sauce tastes better. You know what I mean?
Well, hint. The secret sauce is Thousand Island dressing.
Exactly. But the point is, they're not going to change it for you because you think something else is better. That being said, this was our SmackDown rundown tonight, and we're going to start doing these more often here, as well as our Raw show as well. Most likely from this point forward, some extra shows for those of you who are everything. The Sunday show will still be around. We'll still talk wrestling in general. We'll still throw our opinions out there, have some calls come in, have some fun. We'll kick back, talk wrestling, enjoy things. But in the meantime, we'll start having some separate shows to start getting our stuff out there closer to the time frame when the events are on television and everything. So we hope you guys enjoy the show as it is. And Ray,
we'll start having more, Monday reviews after Raw, SmackDown after SmackDown. We'll probably end up having to move the spotlight to a different day in the week, but just to be able to get everybody up to date with things rather than having to wait till the end of the week.
And for those of you who were tuning in case you were for the career of The Undertaker tonight, I'm sorry we had to make a last-minute decision here. We will have a show based on the career of The Undertaker coming up very soon, most likely one night this week, and we'll cover that situation then. So until that time, Ray, I will talk to you later. You guys listen. Have a great night. Thanks for tuning in. Good night.